Okay, over here. Come on. Over here.
It's been another minute, but I finally have some ideas to talk to you people about, and I've been really doing some testing on my own and some thinking late at night when I don't want to get up and go shoot in the cold, icy, wintry mornings about what are the ISO limits on the X-H2s. And I am told, Fuji tells me they're going to send me an X-H2 to review soon. I did not ask nearly on time, so I'm down the queue, but they're telling me in the next couple weeks or early in the new year. So I will update this video if and when they come through with that, and I'll see what's the ISO like on the X-H2 compared to the S. But in the meantime, this is my completely non-scientific test on how things are going to go with this camera. So we're going to jump over into a screen recording, and man, it's been a while since I did this, so I almost forget my process. Filming on the iPhone today. I don't even have a tripod because I'm so woefully underprepared. The Fuji's inside, and honestly, for the sake of a vlog that we're doing a screen share, I just couldn't be bothered getting the camera to set it up because I'm just going to be like a little box down in the corner. Okay, so I've probably also spliced in some B-roll footage of my dog, Frank, the wire hair pointing griffin. As you could probably see from the intro, Frank is not agreeable. He, he does not like to cooperate. He makes things difficult, but he's a good dog. We'll see him doing the screen recording. We'll see how this works for speed. But essentially, what I try to do is keep exposure at the same, and I want to see where the noise starts becoming a problem in these files. And foremost, how does it affect cropping? Because there's a lot of misinformation going on out there about people saying that the 150 to 600 is a sunny day lens because it's f8. And I think you need to remember that when you have 900 millimeters of effective reach and you can get away from cropping, the f8 becomes much less of a problem because, as you'll see, noise gets amplified in cropping. And I've made many rants and people argue with me that cropping is bad for wildlife. And it's beginners who come back and argue. They say, no, I have to crop, I have to get bigger frame, and cropping is part of wildlife. Cropping is definitely part of wildlife for new shooters. Some of the best shooters I know in my own life right now are shooting shorter and shorter lenses, shooting shorebirds with 135 mil lenses, waiting for them to walk 5 feet in front of you, or out in the forest with deer, learning their habits and where they're going to be, and shooting on 400 millimeter lenses with primes on full frame. So, I have bad field craft. I am the first to admit it. I like reach because getting close is hard. But if you're going to use a crop sensor and then an f8 lens, and then you're going to still try to crop that another 100% at high ISO, you're on some funny drugs there expecting that to be good image quality. It's not going to be. And you shouldn't have to crop if you're already shooting that far in advance. So let's jump into the screen recording right now, just so I have a little cue. There we go. Okay, so I started these at ISO 200, and what did we shoot? This is at 155. So I was not filling the frame, but a pretty good look at the dog at 200 millimeters. and we'll see how quickly my computer loads these as it's multitasking. But at ISO 200, you'll see like there's zero noise. When you zoom in, zero noise. These are all the RAWs, and I will have a Flickr link to all of these tests posted just because I want you to be able to see the files. But yeah, there's nothing here. It looks perfect. So let's go up here. So this is ISO 400. Let's just let this load. So again, like the first thing I'm looking for is what happens when you don't pixel peep. I'm gonna have a video on why pixel peeping is awesome, but also sucks, coming out soon. But the trouble with pixel peeping is that's not how normal people look at your photos. You know, when your cousin goes on your Instagram and looks at your photo, they don't zoom and pinch like another wildlife photographer. I'm a serious musician, as you can see from the guitars, and the joke I've always had in the music industry with friends is that you know, it's like you buy fancy guitars to impress other musicians when you go play a gig, because your audience doesn't know if it's a $200 guitar or a $20,000 guitar, and they don't care. So it's the same with photos. You know, people who see your wildlife photos, they either like them or they don't. They're not pinching into zoom to appreciate the detail. That's something we do for ourselves. But I think it can be critical. Like if this was a nice shot of the dog, which it's not, but if it were, then why am I zooming in to like look at his nose? If I wanted to get a detailed picture of his nose, I should have shot that. I shouldn't be shooting like a wide scene. But again, I'm going to try to keep this under 10 minutes. That's not going to happen, but I'm going to try. ISO 400, I don't see any noise there, no problem. I'm changing my shutter. These are all at f8, so I'm changing my shutter just to keep exposure relatively the same. This is ISO 800, again, just let it load before we judge. Okay, so starting to see some noise when I zoom in. I don't see anything here, like at my eye level. It looks good. When I zoom in, I'm starting to see a bit. And again, this is on Flickr. You may not be able to see here on YouTube, but we'll see. Just for fun, how does this play if I pull the shadows up? There's quite a bit of detail coming out of there. You know, even if I go up a stop or 2 stops, now you've blown the background, but the dog's looking good. So it's retaining a lot in the file there for sure. I'm also trying to get away from underexposing. Like my camera read this as exposed. And I mean, it is, but you know, you probably pull more detail out of there. So 800 is still looking pretty good, but you are starting to see noise that I did not see at 400. So interesting note, there's a little bit of noise at 800. Okay, let's get to 1600. What do we have here? Okay, again, zoomed out, I don't see the noise. Zooming in, I'm starting to see it. It's still not looking, sorry, there's so much glare from this afternoon sun, it's hard to even see my computer. You're starting to see a little bit in the background. I'm not seeing a ton in the dog. It's still not bothering me. None of these are noise adjusted either for plugins. So 1600, I'm still feeling like pretty good about. Even if I had to crop in, it still feels okay. So 3200. Let's see, okay. So here's our 3200. No, that's not it. There we go. Okay, here's 3200. So definitely when you zoom in, I'm starting to see a ton of noise in the background at 3200. I don't really see it, like you can kind of see some texture, but I'm not seeing a ton. This is about the same still, you know, about 150, 60. This is like kind of at the most zoomed out range. Detail overall looks pretty good. Still looks fine. This is 6400th shutter to keep the exposure the same. But so you're seeing the noise, but like I still like it. I mean, I kind of like it. It's almost kind of filmy at that point, but what I want to see is like, where does it start to break and what can we do about it? 6400, now before I even zoom in, I'm starting to see like visible noise in the background. Again, it's not really bothering me, but what's interesting is as a dark dog, like what happens if we bring the shadows up? And now all of a sudden, like, I mean, it's funny, that's not even a film sim, and I really like the colors and textures in old Frankie, but now when you zoom in, like you can see there's a lot of noise. You know, even let's just compare that to the 3200, do the same thing. Let's bring those shadows up a bit. And there's noise here at 3200, but it's still, At 3200, I still feel like it's like a pleasant looking noise. If you hate noise and that grain aesthetic, you might not like that, but that still looks good to me, and I think you could clean that up well. Yeah, at 6400, that's starting to get pretty messy. And then let's go all the way up to 12,800. Now you can see I'm at shutter 1/20,000th to get it. Again, like I don't see a huge difference in the background noise, but when we zoom in to Frank's face, you can see more. So it's interesting here. I would say at 3200, I feel okay. 64, I don't feel way worse. I feel worse going from 3200 to 6400 than I do going 64 to 12.8. Now, the point I really want to make is, let's just see where we are. These are all shots zoomed out. So what I want to show you now is what happens when we zoom in. Because at 12,800, with no noise adjustment applied, I can see like some noise, but it's not driving me nuts. It's not super bad. So what happens, I meant to delete that one. That's just blurry. What happens when we go, let's get his whole face. So here's 12,800, but this is not zoomed. This is, I shot this at 600. So what I'm saying is I'm filling the frame. I am quite happy with that. Yes, there's noise, but you can see now when I zoom in, there's still a lot of detail, even though there is noise, right? And you're not seeing like the difference. If you go back to one of these, I think, let's say one of these is probably 12.8. So here's 12,800 shot at 150 instead of 600. The trouble is that if I zoom in more, where do we get? So to get him big, like look at how huge and ugly the noise becomes once you start filling the frame with the subject. It's dramatic. Like this starts becoming basically unusable. So I guess the point I'm making, I think this is the one that I've treated. So we're at 11 minutes. We're almost done. Let my poor little MacBook hurry up there. I've applied a copy of No Noise and Tack Sharp AI to this photo. And let's just go back and turn it off. So here's without. So you can see, at normal viewing distances, especially, you can see that like it's not that messy, right? It still looks pretty good. When you zoom in, once I actually apply the plugin, you can see like there's a little bit of artifacting in the eye. If I totally turn off the de-blur, that's basically what it was naturally just with the no noise. You can see on the other side, like it's losing some of these details. So if I turn, if you turn this up to 100, it's going to get real crunchy probably. So you're starting to see texture that at normal viewing distance you don't really notice. But if I keep that at like 25, 30, I'm getting a bit of texture, but it's not getting too messy. Again, we're at a super crop here. Now let's go back and fill the frame. So for me, I'm really happy. Like this is shot at 6400 at ISO 12800. Completely destroyed the background. Like it's compressed. Nicely blurred out, lots of details. I could even do more, like if you really wanted more detail, you could come in here and add like a dynamic contrast to it. And now like he's really popping. And again, like that's not looking fake to me. Like the only thing I'm not loving is part of the eyes, but like, I mean, eyes are often tough because you're usually getting like a reflection. So that's weird. So, I mean, the eyes are sharp. They're not soft, but my point is when you're zooming in super hard, that's where you're going to see, kind of some haziness just from the atmosphere. But like the actual hard details, the fur and everything is looking nice and sharp, and the eyes are looking sharp. Keep in mind too, like I was shooting outside at noon, so these settings are just to test noise. But if I was shooting in more pleasing light, the eyes would have a nicer reflection. But it's funny actually. I like this picture and might keep it. You never know how long your loved pets are going to be with you. He's a young boy. He's only 2, but it's nice to just have pictures of him once in a while. just to make sure you have something there for memories. So my point in summary is that cropping is bad. And if cropping is part of your business plan, like when I see people saying they're going to go around shooting with like the 70 to 300, that's why I get a little cringy. And I say, look, if that's what you have and that's all you own, then you got to do what you have to do. But if you're going around shooting, or someone said on a Reddit thread the other day, they said they just bought the 50 to 140 and they're going to buy an X-H2 to go shoot wildlife. And I'm like face palming, because the 50 to 140, unless you're really comfortable with your field craft and you're going to get a few feet away. I mean, I was 20 feet away from a big 70-pound dog, and you can see it's still not filling the frame. And just for argument's sake, so let's say we're at 6,400, which is a pretty normal ISO to have to shoot. So let's just see, let's say we wanted to crop this. Let's get like a free form crop, and let's just see what would happen if we treat this normally. So I'm off centering him. All right, so we've got there, he's filling the frame. Let's turn up our shadows. Well, the noise is already pretty rough. And then let's hit it with tack sharp and no noise. Let's do the same. Let's bring down our details. And let's apply that. And let's see what happens. And wouldn't you know, this suddenly looks like the kind of photo you see on Facebook groups, right? Totally smudgy. The background looks terrible. There's no details. I'm going to export this. This will be in the Flickr set too. But yeah, like, look, the system's trying to sharpen like what it can, but there's just not enough detail, right? You can't go from this to this at 6,400 ISO with a crop and expect good results. Now, you might look at this and think this is a good result. And if you're just starting out and you're watching this video and you don't know what's going on, like, I mean, you got to be happy with your own work. But my point is, you can't aspire to crop and treat things in this way. So if you're getting this lens, you can feel comfortable shooting at 12,800, or ideally, if you can keep it to 32 or 64, you're going to be a lot more usable. But you can definitely shoot at 12,800, assuming you're going to do a bit of treatment in post, assuming you do not have to crop. If you have to start cropping and cutting away from that image quality, you're going to be in trouble. And here's the thing too with the X-H2, I haven't tested it yet, but I would quite confidently argue, regardless of how much detail those megapixels retain, I don't think it's going to hold up better to cropping at high ISO, because the noise is bigger than the detail in the first point, right? So if you've already got this big messy noise pattern, and then you're cropping and amplifying the size of the noise in the same way that you're making everything else bigger, then those extra megapixels are just going to amplify the noise as well as the details. So sure, you may have more detail there, but you're also going to end up with a messier, uglier picture as a result. So you got to factor all these things in, but yeah, I'm going to have the Flickr link below. I'm going to upload all that stuff right now, and we'll see. I'd like to start doing some image reviews as well. So if you're shooting any of this Fuji stuff, I highly encourage you, get on Flickr, tag me, send me stuff. If you want opinions on gear, or you want advice, or you're getting amazing results blowing me out of the water, I want to see all that stuff. So tag me, and yeah, hopefully at some point we'll do like a year-end photo review. So if you've got some photos you want to have looked at on the channel, then send me some stuff, and over the holidays I'll probably do some group discussion. So next time too, I totally forgot my microphone. I'm like completely unprepared. So you're talking iPhone image quality and audio here, and we're nice try at 10 minutes. We're like almost at 20. So okay, bye.